We are live. Welcome to The Road Thoughts 2009 film. And I'm going to dive into the disclaimers in just a second, but just real quick. I think every so often, right out here, you're going to be able to see the shadow. I've got a fan, but it's oscillating, so every so often you'll see the shadow. I just know if I was watching this video, that's something that would really bug me until I figure out what I was seeing, but just and I think the microphone cuts off the hum of the. I have several fans cheering me on. So, disclaimers. If you don't care about these disclaimers, I'll try to keep them short and relevant, but your mileage may vary. You can skip right ahead to the first section via the description box, or any section you want to watch. And yes, I am going to talk slower once I'm through the disclaimers. This video contains spoilers, including for the book. I wanted to read it, but I had trouble getting a version that wasn't translated, so I ended up just listening to a translated audiobook. So if I get stuff wrong from it, it might be because I had to retranslate, and I will admit I didn't always give it my full attention. I did enjoy the book. Overall, I love the film, and I see why the book is beloved. I prefer the film. I do love books in general, but I don't know. If I had read this book first, maybe it's hard for me to say. So, let's see. And the reason I specify that it's the 2009 version, there were a couple of other things also called The Road. Let's see. Yes, so there are a few movies that this was compared to by the IMDb more like this list. Let's see, I'm not going to be spoiling anything from any of them. Easter Promises, which I love. History of Violence, love it. Children of Men, love it. And Dangerous Method, I love it. I mean, some of those are just because Viggo Mortensen stars, but I definitely do. I think Children of Men, I think that reviewers were comparing the two. Others prefer Children of Men. Personally, for me, I love them both equally in slightly different ways. Like, obviously, Children of Men, like, the long takes are incredible. But yeah, they're going for different things. Now, I record this as soon as I can get to the computer after watching the movie. When this first came out, I watched it in theaters as soon as I could. I might swear in this video, and I definitely am going to talk about some of the material in it that got it the age rating that it got. Please note this is not a review, this is a series of, well, thoughts. Some of it is analysis, some of it's MST3K riff tracks and other jokes, especially. And, never mind. Thoughts that I had while watching in chronological order, as well as before watching, and those separated into the first two sections. Time codes in the description box. And in the final section, I get into stuff I think is worthwhile to get into on Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, IMDb, and Wikipedia. And before recording this vlog, I had read all except the user reviews on IMDb. I did not get around to those. But I have forgotten some of the stuff I read, because some of it I read weeks ago. Some as much as a month ago. Now, this video is not me saying I'm smarter than you, or know more, or know better than you. The stuff I say in this video, I'm not saying only I could or have thought of it. It's just stuff I want to talk about. I think others would enjoy listening to. I may in this video discuss issues that do not affect me, or not as much as certain minorities. I'm not trying to lecture those that these issues affect. In part, I'm speaking to others who are not in those minorities, so we can better empathize with those minorities. And in part, I'm expressing my interpretation of the material, not claiming it's as valid as the interpretation of members of the minorities. Let's see. And let's see. Sorry, sometimes I don't remove the I have done other videos on the subject, and the links will be in the description box. And I'll try not to restate in this video what I said in those. I got this on sale, so anything I ever say in this is not out of bitterness. Also, do not feel like the movie wasted my time. Nobody forced me to watch it or to make this video. And it's not that I'm upset at how this compares to what it's adapting. Other movies like it. I don't have some personal vendetta against anyone who worked on making it. To the best of my ability, the negative things I say in this are fair criticisms based on budget, when it came out, what it was trying to achieve, etc. I watched some YouTube videos and special features on the DVD before doing this video. I first watched this in 2009 and have watched it 2 times since, before now watching it today, right before now, vlogging about it. So 4 viewings total. Me making jokes on this should not necessarily be taken as me thinking the thing I'm thinking. Bleh. Almost made it. The thing I'm joking about is actually bad, and me wanting to make light of a serious subject, etc. So we find it very difficult not to mystically gain or realize everything I watch. I do not have a problem with violence and gore in general. I think it's one of my favorite horror movies in general. Also, Criminal Looks The Fly. I don't have a problem with film sexuality, nudity, disturbing, and upsetting material in general. Monster was my favorite movies, in my opinion. The only way sex can be wrong is if consent is violated and or it's cheating. I try not to cry during movies since I appear on camera so soon after watching, and I believe it would be distracting to viewers if it was very clear that I recently cried. This movie makes it very hard not to cry, and again, this is my 4th viewing, and it is just so devastating. Yeah. So, my own quote-unquote film critic rating for this, I'm settling on a 9 out of 10, and my personal rating is also a 9 out of 10. And just brief off-topic before I get into the first section. If you are not interested in the off-topic stuff, and you'll be able to tell almost immediately, feel free to jump ahead to a section. Really glad to see so much Emma Vigeland on TYT recently. There are a lot of Trump stories that I could comment on, but these videos get long enough as it is. He recently, he feels that there is a problem with the reported death toll in America, the death toll from corona. And I would agree with him, except that apparently the problem he has is that it's being reported. He thinks that people shouldn't know. It really, like, I really hope if you know someone who said that if Trump faced something serious, he would, he would grow up, he would mature past, like, I don't know. A lot of the time, it's like, I'm gonna go with right on the edge between age in single digits and age in double digits. I think around 9 years old, and then sometimes he'll lash out at Fox News when they're doing negative reporting, which is like a toddler that will get angry at its mother when when the mother literally, like, moves away from it. So anyway, I just know that they are bad at judging people's character, and try not to take their advice in any situation where their advice would be bad because they're a bad judge of character. I don't think we should ever forget. I hope people in 100 years talk about how bad Trump was at everything, really. I honestly, if, in 100 years, people will probably say, well, as bad as, whatever, you know, let's go with John. John Trump is today. Think about how bad Donald Trump was 100 years ago, but just, I don't think it should ever be forgotten that a huge chunk of America voted for someone so clearly not up to the task. Like, no matter how much you might agree with his ideas, look at how bad his judgment is. Look at how incompetent and childish he is. And realize that not everyone, definitely not everyone, but a certain chunk of his supporters, the die-hard supporters, for them it's not the bug, it's the feature. For them, they love the idea of someone having that much power, being that awful of a person in so many ways, and it really appears to be because they recognize themselves in him. They know deep down that they are awful. And it's not that they think that their awful leader is going to make things better. They just like, it's just this bitter thing of like, it's like when you know, some people apparently, it's hard for me to wrap my head around, but some people apparently like kick their pets. It's that basic kind of thing, It's, you know that they knew that once they got him into office, there would be very little that anyone could do to control him, and the owner knows that the dog isn't gonna you know it's not gonna bite him, and even if it did, he could just get rid of it. So it's just, yeah. Anyway, that brings us to the first section, notes taken while watching. If I can just figure out where it's there we go. Excuse me. Just quick. Go. We open on a flashback to happier times, warm colors, vibrancy, life, and then it goes to another flashback where the man realizes there are fires outside and prepares to help with water. I really appreciate that. Maybe it was a budgetary thing, but I like that we don't see the fires. It's clear that that's what's going on, and he's gonna fill up the tub, and yeah, uh, I think you know what I'm talking about. He's gonna get some water in there, get some, I don't know, buckets or something to help put it out, and it's just, yeah, we really, that is a good image of just, you know fire in general is useful if you really contain it, but otherwise dangerous. I'm gonna get into a rant about that. But if it's not contained, then like that's a good universal bad omen. A omen might be a bit. It's a bad thing. And the man wakes up and immediately makes sure that the boy's properly covered while asleep. The boy wakes up, is immediately afraid, and the man goes to comfort him. No hesitation, no irritation, no frustration. It's really great, characterization, instead of just like, it's showing rather than telling. The first things you see a character do really define who they are, and once you see, you know, once he wakes up from, after we see the flashbacks, once we are in the present, which is where most of the movie takes place, for the rest of, yeah, for the rest of the movie, the way we see him is, excuse me, very heavily, excuse me, I'm just, there. We know that what he does to protect his son, to comfort his son. And excellent narration, and I especially love the line, "All I know is the child is my word, and if he is not the word of God, then God never spoke." Just, yeah. I'm really, really glad that, yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say it. I'm yeah, I guess. No, never mind. There are many adaptations of books that have a lot of internal monologues that don't go for narration, and a lot of the time that makes sense. But for this, the narration is really, yeah. And actually, come to think of it, it is fairly sparse. There's not an awful lot. Is there much more than the little bit there at the start? Actually, no. Yeah, yeah. There's at least a little more, but it's not like non-stop throughout the movie. There's some really great movies that have non-stop narration, but I don't think that would have been the best choice for this movie. Now, let's see. It is deeply disturbing to see all the fire in the horizon in one shot, and then all the smoke and gray in another. Both of these, like, it's very Kuleshov effect, like, independently of each other. These are both very powerful images, but seeing one right next to another, first we see the fire, and then we see all the smoke and the gray. It does a good job of conveying that they walk far and for a long time. In that there is such contrast. They walked so far that after a while they can't even see the fires, despite how all-encompassing they seemed. Just yeah. And the man, reassures the boy, the people that they found hanging, it's not murder, it's suicide. That's the think about how bleak it is when that's almost comforting. Like, don't worry, it was suicide. And you know I'm not personally against. I think, if I don't want to get too much into it. I think there are circumstances under which suicide is 100% understandable, but it is still a sad world where, like, it is reassuring to find that, and the boy asks why, and the man, and there isn't, like, it's not that he's, like, frustrated or like out of patience or something, but he just tells him, why. He's already told him, and the boy still has trouble accepting that this is, yeah. Charlize Theron does an incredible job with such a small part. Really, everyone in this is incredible, but the look on her face when she realizes that the child is going to be born into this horrible world that they're now living in, and I really appreciate that it is clear that they, the boy was conceived before the, what's the word? Before the world really went to hell. We can see that she's already very pregnant on that night with the fires, and clearly that was one of the first big things that happened, or at least the first time it was close to them, because she doesn't say, she sees him, you know, like, opening the faucet, yeah, for the bathtub, and she doesn't say, "Oh, it's burning out there again." She says, "Why are you taking a bath now?" This is the first time that she becomes aware of it, and we don't get the sense that she's the type to, like, hide from reality. On the contrary, she faces reality very straight on. So, you know, it's not that they were. I'm going to weigh my words carefully here. It's not that they conceived a child after they realized that the world was this horrible. It's that by the time that the world was really horrible, she was already very pregnant. And by the time she gives birth, you know, yeah. I read in the trivia that that is Charlize Theron actually screaming. That's not like an actual pregnant woman, which the like apparently I want to say the director said, you know, we'll just put the audio of a you know of a woman giving birth over, you know, but she said no, no. I feel like I've read that she had kids. I meant to look up if she had any by 2009. I'm not entirely sure, but it seems so real. You know, I don't know. Maybe she was just extremely observant when watching another woman give birth. Maybe I don't know, but it's incredibly convincing. Let's see. It really sounds like she was remembering what it felt like to give birth. I really appreciate how realistic the gang look. You know, several of them are clearly dressed to denote they are gang members, but they're not in like ridiculous leather gear. I'm not besmirching Mad Max. You know, if you love Mad Max, that's great. And you know, Mad Max was not supposed to be a realistic depiction of, you know, the leather gear they wear in those is not supposed to be that that's what they actually thought, like realistically, you know. Anyway, you know, these are some of the most, possibly the most realistic looking post-apocalyptic gang members I've ever seen. Honestly, I can't help but wonder, like the the fact that they have like, you know, because you know, if you haven't watched the movie in a while and you're watching this video, like one of them has a ski mask. You know, like today, if someone wears a ski mask for like a mugging, for example, or a bank robbery or something, the reason they're doing that is so no one will recognize their face and be able to identify them. But that's not why this guy is. No one's gonna identify. There's no, you know, that's not a thing. It's not like he's gonna take it off and pretend to be a regular person at some point. He's, you know, but that's one of them, and just yeah, you know, several of them are wearing things that make them look dangerous, and I mean I guess it's so that other gangs immediately know, so that the other gang won't like try to like it's like hoisting up a pirate flag or something. Like there's some chance that you're gonna scare away someone that you could have, you know, taken from, but there's also a chance that you're gonna scare off someone who would try to trifle with you. I did just watch The Dark Knight. Thank you for asking. When it comes to the boy, I have only one question. Can I do it when the time comes? Note that he doesn't say if. You know, if I have to. He says when. He is certain that it will happen at some point. And really, the only reason that, I mean, the movie ends with not long after he himself dies. You know, he dies before finding himself in a situation where he, shoots the boy. So it is this sort of, what's the word? There is some chance that eventually he would have. And the man puts the gun in the boy's hands, and it's clear that he isn't comfortable with it. He's it's in his hands, yeah, but he's holding it like he's worried that it's gonna like it's a toxic, that he's worried it's gonna infect him with something, and logically he knows that it's not that, but he's so averse to the idea of using it. I saw some say that the boy's mother is cowardly for not going on fighting. I really don't think that it's cowardice. I think it's remarkable that the boy and the father themselves haven't given up. I would agree if it was like, if there was a much better chance of, yeah. I forget if it's in this exact, it might be a later, oh yeah, never mind, it's in the, yeah. But I'm gonna say it here. The When she says that she's leaving, he says, "Can't you stay just one more night?" And I think it's noteworthy. It is this sort of thing of just, to him, like, I mean, realistically, one more night isn't going to change anything. And I don't think that the man actually believes, if he thinks about it logically, that that is going to, but he he just doesn't want it to be yet. He doesn't want it to be now. And that is kind of, at the end of the day, he can't completely accept how realistic it is. He just wants just a little bit longer, just for a little bit longer. And then we'll see. Maybe things will get better. But it's not right now, okay? It's not yet. Things are not over yet. If we can just keep it going for a little bit longer, there's some we don't know. Maybe it's going to be right around the corner. We can't know for sure. But once we turn the corner, then we'll see if it's there. And if it's not there, maybe it's around the next corner. If we keep going just a little bit longer, that's what's going on in his head all the time. He what are they gonna do when they reach the water? Is he gonna find a boat in perfect working condition? And like, and it's, when she says it, I don't think that she thinks that it's realistic, but she's just stating, factually, as cold as it is here, you're not going to last. What was it she said? You're not going to last through winter. You have to get, it's not that she thinks that if they go deep enough, if they go further, far enough south, that eventually they're gonna, oh, there it is. There's a, you know, boat in perfect working condition. But there's it's probably that she knows he needs some goal, and this would work. I think she's probably factually correct. She's probably right that they can't be outside all winter, and the charitable reading of the ending is the I'm gonna go with actor name. Guy Ritchie and his family lived in or near the bunker with food, and they're gonna take him back to the bunker, and they're gonna ride out the winter. That might be one of several bunkers they have. Obviously, they would need more than the one bunker for there to be enough food for, because it's deep winter, at least some scenes. There's like a lot of snow. So, but if they have several bunkers and some kind of, but the fact that the they seem to be very like she's I forget the actress's name, but she's credited as Motherly Woman. I'm almost certain that's her, at least. There at the end, she seems to be very hopeful that they'll be able to keep things going. And the children, I mean, they're maybe hardened by the reality of the situation. They are, they are more mature than they would be, excuse me, if they weren't in such a bad situation, but they don't look like they think that they're gonna starve to death tomorrow, you know. And let's see, I mean, if they really thought that the end that it was hopeless, they wouldn't have approached the kid at all, or at most they would have, you know, which again, that is the less charitable reading of the ending. It's possible that as soon as the end credits start rolling, that the moment the kid turns his back on them or closes his eyes near them, the moment that he lets his guard down, they're gonna kill him, steal his stuff, and leave him there. And that's but the yeah, the I think the Charlize Theron's character gave, yeah, Viggo Mortensen's character the that to that as a goal, that to guide him, his journey and the son's journey with. He needed, there needed to be some kind of something to work towards, because otherwise they would. Certainly the father would completely despair, and the what's the word? And yeah, and she knew realistically they're not going to be able to, and that's the thing. Like the she leaves right after telling him that he has to go south, and we're not told exactly where she went, but presumably she did not go south. Because she knew that they would, and she didn't want, she wanted them to not see her die, basically. And at the end of the movie, they have gone very far south. They're at the you know uh, ocean, I guess. They're at the water, and we're introduced to a woman who does have a lot of hope. And it's, again, charitable reading is she has reason to hope, and she's not just faking hope, and she will, this family will be able to take care of the boy. And that is the that I mean, if that is what she would have wanted, if she is looking down from above, which I guess depends on, I know some branches of Christianity think that suicide is, although I get, yeah, actually, I don't know if what she did counts as suicide. Anyway, if you believe that she's looking down, she's probably relieved that he's with this family, because I don't think she would be upset that she wasn't the one who was there. And if she had been with the two of them, maybe there wouldn't have been enough food for them to reach the ocean, which is, again, the charitable reading is she didn't die in vain. Her death meant that they had enough food to reach the family, which are going to be able to take care of the boy for many years to come. 27 minutes in, the father says they're heading to the coast, and let's see. Yeah, and that's basically the goal that's going to solve their problems. I've seen some say the movie doesn't give a clear enough indication of what they're trying to accomplish. Personally, that line is all I need, but I understand why it isn't for everyone. Excuse me. I I feel like it's too bad. Like, people who went to see the movie and were disappointed. I mean, if they had read just a little of the book, they would know what to expect, more or less what to expect. They certainly wouldn't have been so surprised that they didn't get a more clear indication of what the goal is, or a more realistic goal for that matter. You know, and I rewatched the trailers right before watching the movie, and it really is like I understand people who were frustrated that they didn't get the movie that the 2.5 minute trailer promised. The 2 minute trailer is a little better, but I completely understand. I wasn't unhappy. This was the exact movie I hoped it was. I mean, if I want an exciting post-apocalypse, I've got plenty of movies to choose from. I'm really glad that this is the one that shows that the post-apocalypse is not that exciting. It's there's a lot of tedium, and it accomplishes it without getting tedious, which I really, if I had a hat, it would come off to them for that. Now, let's see. We go from a flashback of the two parents in love and playing the piano with warm colors to a gray flashback of a man chopping up the piano, presumably for firewood. And the man gets rid of the wedding ring, so he won't. So he can stop thinking about her, because it's really tearing at him. Actually, I guess that is one of the last times he we see a flashback to her, isn't it? It's not the last, but it's one of the last, I think. And 31 minutes in, we see that it was the mother who told the father they should go to the coast. Look, there's colors. The wonder the first time you see a rainbow. I appreciate the slightly warmer colors of the house that we, not long after, realize is full of cannibals, compared to the completely gray outside. I've seen movies that think that you have to be completely gray all the time in order to be a, for it to be like bleak and this kind of brooding gloom kind of thing. And it's just you can have certain exceptions, and this does a really great job. I mean, in part, it gets across that when they're in there, there's maybe some, maybe although actually, yeah, one of them says it smells bad, but otherwise, it feels different in there. It's as if it's not quite so bad in there, where outside it's cold and gray. I mean, really, the only time when they're outside and it's not almost completely gray is when it's almost completely orange because of the fires off in the distance. And in the present day, the only other exception is the flashbacks. We see a massive pile of shoes, and so it's the boy, and we realize either right there or just a few minutes after it's a house. It's the cannibal's house, and those shoes are from their victims. I guess some might wonder why they're piling up the shoes. First off, they have to put the shoes somewhere. Second off, maybe seeing how big the pile is gives them a certain sense of hope. Maybe they like being reminded of how many people they've managed to catch, how long they've managed to keep living despite having to turn to cannibalism. I mean, in their eyes, it must not seem like such a bad thing, or they wouldn't be willing to do it at all. They would starve to death. Some people do choose starving to death over cannibalism. I personally don't judge, excuse me, either choice. Let's see, under those circumstances, obviously, there's cannibalism is obviously very wrong if you have viable alternatives. But if it's that or starve to death, I don't. It's awful, but I I I understand why some people would. I really appreciate that the boy is much quicker at picking up the danger of the cannibal house than the father is. And the father keeps ignoring him, as sadly often is the case with parents. I really appreciate just how terrifying the scene of the cannibal victims is. Obviously, we empathize with their horrible situation, but we are also scared that they'll slow down the man and the boy, and that they'll end up dead as well. And we do see, we don't see all the details, but basically there's some kind of commotion because they're yeah, the people nearly starved to death down the basement managed to get out, and that causes enough commotion that the man and the boy are able to get out there without being seen as they're getting out. But not very long after, two people walk out, and one of them gets out binocular, and tries to find them. The two of them would not be doing that if their brethren were still like dying at the hands of their victims. Obviously, they did manage to get them under control. So if the boy and the father had still been in the house, they would have been victims too. Very disturbing to watch the man almost shoot his son. I really appreciate that consistently throughout the movie, if he thinks that there is a situation where both of them will die, he wants his son to die the quickest, most painless way, and he'll accept that his own death won't be that easy. When he used one of the last two bullets there at the start of the movie, from then on, the one bullet remaining, he considers that's for the boy. And, yeah. And a lot of movies would make the mother out to be the bad guy, and some people did read it as the movie judging, or maybe they just judge. And again, if that's how you feel, then that's how you feel. The but yeah, a lot of movies would make her like just completely clearly in the wrong, but what she's saying makes sense when she's talking about, she points out we should have, when we had 3 bullets or more, we should have gone ahead and used them on the 3 of us. Now we only have 2, and and she points out, her bitterness does come to the surface as she points out, you talked me into this. You talked me into waiting, just giving it a little more time, and now we have too few bullets. And that's the thing, again, depending on the ending. Either the man was right to keep turning corners to see if the next, he didn't recognize it when he found it, but he found it, because the the boy spotted the other boy, and he recognized the sounds of the dog. So yeah, they were there. It's just that the man kept thinking they were dangerous. So, if you read the ending as the boy being saved, then the man was right to insist that they keep trying, and if the woman had, in fact, you know, if they had killed, if they had used 3 bullets on, when they had that or more, they would all be dead. And it is this thing of, her, based on the knowledge that they had, her decision, you know, yeah, her feeling that they should use the bullets on each other and themselves makes a lot of sense, and her decision to sacrifice herself, excuse me, now that, yeah, makes a lot of sense. Excuse me. And for anyone who says, oh, she's so cruel that she sits there and says, I should use up the bullets, she doesn't, though. She, she's brutally honest about how she feels, but she doesn't spend either bullet. She sacrifices herself so that the two of them still have enough bullets for both of them to die. And the with her gone, and with her telling him, you're not going to survive the winter, well, the you know the that's going to get him moving. That's going to get him out of the house and, traveling. And that is the only way to, if there is anything out there for, then that's, yeah. I really appreciate that the cannibals are not these snarling beasts. Obviously, what they're doing is awful, but they look like what, basically cannibals in real life look. They yeah. So I like it so much from the first time I read it. The editing room's abridged script of the first Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movie points out how ludicrously over the top evil the attackers of, I guess that's technically a spoiler. There are some people who attack a character in the movie at one point, and they're basically like, it's been a little while since I watched the movie, which is a decision I'm pretty happy with. If I recall, yeah, they are literally snarling. They're making animal noises, and the camera is whipping around to them, and they're like laughing maniacally. It is, and I get it. I'm not saying it was the wrong choice, because that movie is very much a comic book, and I am in favor of that. But I'm glad that that's not the case here. I'm glad that that's not at all, and I like the detail that while one of them still doesn't, you know, yeah, one of them still doesn't like the smell. Another one doesn't even notice the smell anymore. It must reek like crazy. That is what I would say. Wouldn't the boy be able to smell that? Maybe the man is not. No, I guess that is the answer. They're not used to having to rely on their sense of smell to determine if something is or is not dangerous. And because of that, yeah, that's and they visit the house that the man grew up in, and the boy waits outside. And it is a good, like, some of the, excuse me, some of the things he says, he's getting all nostalgic, and the boy, like, he barely even has the words to explain to the boy what he's remembering. He talks about, like, oh, this is where we put the, what's it called? The yeah, I don't remember what it's called, like the socks, whatever, on the, and the boy's like, what are you talking about? And the boy sees another boy, runs after him, and his father gets very upset and worried. And it is this thing of, like, to the boy, this, obviously he yearns for something that he can recognize himself in, that he has empathy. He's not going to go chasing after, let's say it was a xenomorph. He's not going to go chasing after that, but he sees a boy his own age, and the boy is probably worried because, like, we never find out if the boy, if the family were okay with that boy going out, and but there's some chance that he's been told, be careful around the boy's father, because he has a gun and he seems like paranoid. So he sees the boy, and the you know and yeah, he's not running because he's scared. That's my interpretation. He's not running because he's scared that the boy is going to hurt him. He's running because he's scared that, the man is going to. And the man realizes the blanket that directly touched what is by now a skeleton probably is diseased, but the one on top of it might be okay. And at this point, the father doesn't even consider it new or special for the boy to see a dead body. He doesn't tell him, don't look at that. Don't. He's just like, it's nothing you haven't seen before. And the piano reminds the father of the much happier life he used to live. And he breaks down and cries, making it very difficult not to join in. And the boy is scared when they first find the bunker. It's very bittersweet seeing them enjoy the food in the bunker, because, like, in present day, seeing a child enjoy food, it's like, that's great. They're going to be able to enjoy food their entire life. But here, it's like they're going to run out of that, and there's going to be nothing, and they're going to starve again. And I really appreciate, like, the novel details the food they eat, and it is like, that's a very, you can really understand, the experience there. And I really appreciate that there's no narration explaining it, just because they do get it across. The acting gets across how, relieved they are to be able to eat. I read that Viggo Mortensen really, like, got into the role. Did he? I forget if he did also starve himself. Sorry, during shooting. I'm pretty sure he did before shooting, because and that helps explain why he's so skinny. And the boy is really skinny as well. And I really hope, I don't think they did not actually starve a teenager. There's no way. That is definitely not legal. But, like, they found one who looks skinny, or who already was kind of skinny or something. And the man dreams about, sexual situations with his wife. I appreciate that it doesn't get, like, I guess, like, crude is maybe the word. Like, it doesn't, it's not like, you know, you know, American Pie, har, look, there's, you know, it's a hot chick. It, you know, it conveys their sexual attraction for each other without, you know, going into that, because that's not, you know, that's not how he thinks of it. That's not how, you know, that's like, if it was the boy imagine, you know, obviously he wouldn't be thinking about his mother, but if it was the boy imagining being sexually attracted to someone, maybe he would think about it in a way similar to, yeah, you know, American Pie or something. But the yeah, in the, yeah, I really appreciated the, yeah. And the bath is also this sort of bittersweet, like, you know, they should be able to do that all the time. It shouldn't be special for them. Yeah. And the boy insists and is indeed correct. You know, there is a dog outside the bunker. That is, you know, and it's again the man, he doesn't like being confronted with the you know, bad, you know, negative realizations about, and excuse me, and the man realizes that if there is a dog, it must mean that it's with people, and he figures it would go badly, and, you know, they leave. And it is this thing where, like, because it's true, like, if there's a dog alive in that kind of, excuse me, I'm gonna need to adjust my back, is still giving me issues. Excuse me. There, that's a little better. The in that kind of environment, there's no way the dog is healthy and running around if there aren't people helping it, you know. Or no, yeah, the maybe a wolf, but not a dog, not a yeah. And the boy manages to convince the father they should go towards the blind man and give him food. I quite like the detail that a number of people in the movie wear plastic bags around their feet and their shoes. It's not something you think about today when it's easy to just go out and buy a new pair of socks. But a plastic bag would last much longer than socks that are made from, I don't know, I guess cotton or something. You know, that's gonna wear, you know, over time. That's gonna, you know, there's gonna start to appear holes in them, and eventually they're gonna be useless. But plastic, you know, like, you can rip plastic, but if you're wearing plastic, that's, yeah. And it's not that it's comfortable. Obviously, it's not particularly attractive or anything, but it's a little bit of protection from the heat, from the cold. Keeps in the heat or warmth, I guess, is where my brain was going with that. And the father tells the boy it's time to sleep, and then he puts the pistol next to him to communicate to the blind man not to try anything. Really tears your heart out and stomps on it to hear the blind man talk about his son. It really just, it's so devastating, and I really appreciate the, yeah, that old man wasn't a bad guy. You can't even tell anymore. Truly horrifying when the cannibals chase down the woman and we hear her be killed off screen. Very intense when the trees fall. An hour and 14 minutes in, the man coughs up blood. I honestly, like, when a long time passes without you watching it, you forget that it's actually, because it feels like such a big event. So it feels like, you know, it's much more of the movie that you think of, and he did look like he was, there's something wrong, but that's the first time we see him cough up blood. It's when you dream about good things that you start to worry. The movie doesn't really draw attention to it, but that does mean that he should be worried since he sometimes dreams about his wife, the happy memories. I'm sorry it's not blue. Very tense and sinister music as the thief walks up and we see his knife. At first we think he's going to hurt the boy, and we get a very different opinion of him, once he throws the knife away and the man, excuse me, has him at gunpoint. And the man assumes the thief was following them, and the boy immediately has a problem with treating the thief so harshly. It's very noteworthy. Pretty much everyone who has like any kind of character, like, yeah, but pretty much if you have a line in this movie, if you have at least one line in this movie, you probably have a line about that you're being followed or that you're not following this other. Everyone in this thinks that everyone else is following them. The boy is probably the only one who doesn't really believe. Yeah, when he talks about it, he mostly trying to convince. Or never mind. Getting into the weeds here. I'm not sure if the boy really talks about it, but he's probably the only character who isn't at all worried about the, or not to the extent. Excuse me. So but yeah, I really like that, like the what's the word? It's very realistic. They would all think that they're being followed because that is something like the lizard brain. If you, yeah, we're there's a we're gonna assume we're being followed because if 9 times out of 10 where we assume we're being followed, we're not being followed. Well, we ran away just in case. The person who doesn't run away all 10 times, well, that 10th time where he actually was being followed, he gets caught. But the people who ran away all 10 times don't get, it's not that they never ever get caught, but yeah. And immediately after the man forces him to strip, it's clear that the thief is extremely cold and standing there freezing. You're not the one that has to worry about everything. And I know I'm skipping a few lines here. Yes, I am. I am the one. Such powerful performances. Honestly, if this entire movie had been only Cody Smith McPhee, I would have watched the whole thing gladly. I would probably love it as much as I do now. He really is unbelievably talented, and I hope he shows up in more comic book movies because I don't watch very many new movies that aren't comic book movies. But I thought I liked him as Nightcrawler, and I'm guessing the MCU is probably going to recast all of them, but I don't know. I guess he wouldn't be the first person to play more than one role in a comic book. Crap! I can't believe I'm blanking on his name. God, it's right on the tip of my tongue. He's for the love. It's right on the tip of my tongue. Djimon Hounsou plays two different roles in the DCEU. So that's, including, and one in the MCU. So it's entirely possible that he will get another role. The boy picks up a small container and a beetle flies out, and then they get shot at by the man with the bow. It's a very clever warning. I like the fact that the bow is this kind of is it called a comp? Is that one called a compact? It's like a professional bow. It's not that these people went out and carved it from, from wood themselves. They found it in a sporting goods store. I quite like that detail, and all the arrows are also clearly. I'm gonna go with sporting goods store. Yeah, this is not some kind of. These are not, like brilliant mountain men kind of. It's yeah. But yeah, it's a very clever warning system. That way they don't have to be very close to the window, and they'll still be able to see someone coming. Coming by down there. All they have to do is watch for the beetle flying. So yeah, an hour and 26 minutes in, the man is hit in the leg with the arrow. So, less than 20 minutes left before the end credits start. The man doesn't get very much screen time after he takes the arrow out, before he dies. It's very believable, it's very effective, and honestly, it would get to be unbearable in a movie that's already so bleak to slowly watch the man die for a very long time before the movie just finishes him off. I really appreciate that. And the man sleeps and dreams nice memories of his wife. Like he said, that means he should be worried. He wakes up and he sees his wife and his son. And even as he's dying, the man warns the boy to watch out for dangers. He's not lying there talking about how unfair it is that he's dying now and he didn't do anything wrong. He doesn't deserve this. He's a good person. No, he's thinking about, he's repressing his emotions so that the boy doesn't get too upset at seeing all the, yeah, and again, his mind right up until the end is, how can I best help the boy? He needs to be more careful. I keep telling him, he doesn't. I have to tell him one more time. He needs to be more careful. It's beautiful that right up until the end. He doesn't yell at him. But over the course of the movie, clearly he does sometimes get frustrated that the boy isn't, for example, that the boy ran after, some other boy, which, the man doesn't even believe that there was another boy, but, he's very frustrated that the boy didn't stay put. He gets very scared at that, and that's yeah, right there at the end, he doesn't berate him, even though, I'm sure part of him wants to, but yeah, just keep going south. Even now, he doesn't have a more clear goal for what should happen to the boy. He's not willing to accept the reality. They need a more clear goal. Because if he thinks about that, he's going to have to admit to himself how unlikely it is that there really is going to be any kind of worthwhile future for the boy. And once the boy has accepted that his father is dead, he takes the binoculars and he covers him with the blanket. And the boy holds the gun again, but now he's holding it completely differently from how he was early in the movie. Now he looks ready to use it. And we see, I forget what it's called. I used to know what it's called, but since it's a revolver, he gets out the chamber. Yeah, you know, yeah, he gets that out and you know, yeah, puts it back in and stuffs it in a pocket or something. But his hand does shake when he points the gun at Guy Pearce. Okay, here near the end of this section, I am gonna make a few jokes. How do I know you're one of the good guys? You don't? You're just gonna have to take a shot. Not with a gun! Not with a gun! Considering the naming conventions of the credits, I guess it would have been too cheeky, which is fitting since he's Australian, if Guy Pearce's character was named Guy. I don't want to spoil it, so I'm just gonna say there's an incredible joke. To me, it's an incredible joke like that in the abridged script for Iron Man 3. But do note, if you know, it does spoil the entire movie, and if you don't know the MCU up to, you know, if you don't know the first two Iron Man movies and Avengers, then it's not really going to make much sense to you. Excuse me. I guess if you're not already interested in those, the joke isn't worth watching those movies, but you should be watching those movies anyway. I really shouldn't have to tell anyone to watch Iron Man 3, but I realize to some people, not everybody loves it. Okay. That actually is one of the only times the boy says okay in the movie, isn't it? In the book, he says it all the time. Like, you, it's almost to the point where you're thinking that he's on Whose Line Is It Anyway, and they're playing two-word vocabulary, and okay is both of the two words. The movie ends with a huge sense of relief. Whether we believe that things will be good for the boy or not, obviously we are more relieved if we believe they are. But just the fact that the movie is ended, has ended, the bleakness is going to, if the movie was half an hour longer, I think it would be too much. Honestly, I guess even like 5 or 10 minutes longer would be too much. But as it is, the length it is at, I don't think it is excessive. For the length, the amount, how bleak it is okay. It's not completely, but it's not for everyone. It's definitely not for everyone. And the credits roll, we see the logo for 2929 Productions in the year 2929, when evidently not very many women are still left alive. And yes, I did think of that joke at the start when that logo came up as well, but I didn't want to make jokes that early in the section. And I would make like jokes about how it doesn't pass the Bechdel test, but at the end of the day, considering that when they meet, the I think if let's hypothetically say that along the way they met, let's say that the thief was actually female. Well, then suddenly the stripping is completely, it changes. And considering, all the talk of rape and such, if there was a woman, I think the audience would immediately think, has she been raped? Maybe she escaped from somewhere where she was being raped, and just, yeah, I yeah. Let's see, yeah, the movie is an hour and 40 minutes long without end credits, and 47 minutes long with them. And that brings us about an hour. Second section, notes taken before watching. Excuse me. So, this was directed by John Hillcoat, who also directed Lawless, and I think I specifically watched Lawless because it was the same director. I don't personally think it's quite as good, but I mean, this movie is so incredible. It's very hard. I do quite like that movie. Maybe even love it. Let's see. Like I said in the video I did on that, I did not love the ending of it, but I'm not spoiling it here. Don't worry. But there are definitely things I liked a lot about that movie, and yeah, I think just so many incredible actors. And yeah, and this is the only Cormac McCarthy adaptation I've seen. I know, I should watch, what's it called? No Country for Old Men. Don't at me. And let's see. Yeah, so Viggo Mortensen I've seen in a number of other movies. Let's see. Yeah, I'm just briefly going to list them. Crimson Tide, Prophecy, J. Jane, 28 Days, not to be confused, 28 Days Later, Lord of the Rings trilogy, History of Violence, Electrist, Eastern Promises, and A Dangerous Method. And Cody Smith McPhee, who's apparently in. I didn't realize this until I looked at it, and I don't remember him in it, but he's apparently in that bird flu movie. It's a TV movie called Fatal Contact. Ah, crap, what's it called? Colon, Bird Flu in America. I mean, that movie is exactly what it wants to be. People were very concerned about bird flu at the time, and the movie comes along and is exactly like, today it's probably hard to relate to if you don't remember the bird flu fear. Then but you could say that about a bunch of good movies. There are a lot of movies that were made during the Cold War that are a lot less relatable today. But yeah, the movie is exactly what it wants to be, and it's decently made. But yeah, other than that, I've only seen him in the X-Men movies that he's in. But he's got such a gentle face, such gentle eyes. I hope I see him in more stuff. I think he's incredibly talented as an actor, and I thought they did a pretty decent job with like him being funny in X-Men Apocalypse. I don't necessarily love it, but I thought they did a decent job with it. And let's see. Oh, right. I just briefly wanted to say I like the bit about. It's because I reached Robert Duvall on the list of actors. I like the bit with he claims he's 90, and Viggo Mortensen is like, is that what you tell people so they won't hurt you? Yep. Does it work? Nope. Because it is like I looked it up. He's from like 33, which means that he would be what, 76 when they made this movie, I guess. Something like that. It's yeah. So it really is, but yeah, 90, that might deter people, might deter women, might deter gents. But yeah, him I've seen in To Kill a Mockingbird, Bullet, THX 1138, Godfather, the Godfather movies that he's in, I guess I'll go with. The Eagle Has Landed, Apocalypse Now, Civil Action, Sixth Day, Thank You for Smoking, and Widows. And Charlize Theron, I'd forgotten, but yeah, she's apparently in That Thing You Do. It's been forever. I don't think I was that familiar with her work when I first watched That Thing You Do, or I would, because I tend to remember her from the stuff I've seen. Anyway, That Thing You Do, Devil's Advocate, Reindeer Games, Men of Honor, 15 Minutes, Trapped, Monster, Eon Flux, Snow White and the Huntsman, Million Ways to Die in the West, The Huntsman, Winter's War. And no, I am not going to go into... There are definitely some movies that I haven't watched that people would say I should have watched that she's in. And Guy Pearce, I've seen in La Confidentiale, Rules of Engagement, Memento, I forgot about that. Sorry, that's a terrible joke. The Time Machine, Prometheus, Lawless, Iron Man 3, and I mean, technically his role is uncredited in that, so I'm just gonna go with... I mean, if you might already be able to figure out what, yeah. Now, yeah, so The America of the Road is a very different one to our own, with a very different danger level. In the entire book and movie, there is not a single cop in America. But that doesn't mean that people are safe. And for all we know, the gangs driving around, they could be left over from Trump's supposed police force. You know, when I first watched this in 2009, I figured that maybe eventually America might look like it does in the movie. I really didn't think that only 11 years later it would seem so much like something that would happen soon. Actually, come to think of it, the trailer does say that this is, you know, it says 10 years from now, so it is set in 2019, and yeah, I don't know, I guess maybe they had a bad feeling that Trump would become president. I don't know. I quite like that the credits, like the book, refer to the characters as man, boy, old man. And sorry, yeah, in the book he's not called blind man, he's called old man. Because names have no meaning in the world that we see in the book and the movie. The reason we have names is to distinguish between different people, but this is a world with no relationships between people, considering that it's seen from the perspective of the man and the boy who don't have relationships with other people. I'm not saying nobody has relationships, clearly, and that's also part of why it's, you know, why it's so easy to read the ending as positive, because it's not, he didn't just meet one new person, he met an entire family, he met 4 people, you know, so it, yeah, you know, but, you know, names are to facilitate inheritance, but there's nothing to inherit anymore. I quite like that the father is always very careful, but the son is a bit more optimistic. And at the end of the movie, yeah, they do argue about it, and the very, very ending sees the son trusting someone that we, the audience, don't know if he should trust. But this world is never going to get any better if no one trusts each other anymore. If no one trusts anyone at all, you know, without trust there is no society. If they're going to be able to rebuild society, they need trust. Let's see, versus. I've always loved that this movie is not this non-stop thrill ride. Something people forget about this kind of post-apocalyptic thing is there would be long stretches of tedium. It would be a lot of waiting for things to happen. I personally don't think the movie's ever boring. I think it conveys tedium without being tedious, which I might have already mentioned, but anyway. I respect the opinion of people who say it should have been half an hour shorter or moved faster, but I completely disagree with them. Like, I get, you know, sure, like, there are... there are situations where you don't have to wait very long for things to get dangerous again. But when you're moving, they spend a lot of time walking over long distances and fairly rarely actually meet people. So, yeah, there would be a lot of time where it's just them walking. Excuse me. The black thief steals to eat, and the white male lead not only takes back what he stole, but punishes him harshly for the theft of necessity. I've seen others point out this is a sort of microcosm of America, with the white man representing all white America, the black man representing all of black America, and that is a very good, the the black man also didn't, he didn't have anything, he didn't have any choice but to steal. I think one of the most devastating aspects of when the father teaches the son how, yeah, let me just briefly, because the thing is, he didn't have to, the man doesn't have to force him to strip. He could have just taken back their stuff. The thief no longer poses any threat whatsoever. So, yeah, yeah. I think one of the most devastating aspects when the father teaches the son how to suicide, and when he considers killing the son to spare him from the horrors, is the fact that the son doesn't try to talk his father out of it or try to run away or anything. In part because he trusts him so much, but also in part because he accepts that the world they live in is a truly horrible place, even though, unlike his father, he has no frame of reference. Like you would expect him to struggle to try to get away. I saw some user reviews say that the kid is like annoying, whiny, and such. I mean, I'm not saying that anybody's really wrong here. Basically, I think the expectation is that you see the kid and you want to help him, and I mean I don't know if people who get frustrated, maybe that's in part because they know they can't help, and they don't like hearing someone express pain because there's nothing they can do to alleviate the pain. I'm not gonna, I don't know for sure, but it is definitely, apparently, like the 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 author Cormac McCarthy wrote it based in part on his own relationship with his own son, and it is basically this idea. I saw some point out that a boy wouldn't stay that innocent and scared if he was in such a in this bad of a world, and that is the, like, if the, let me think, if the, I mean basically he was thinking, what if, you know would I be able to maintain my kid's innocence and still still protect him in a world like this? I don't necessarily think that that he thinks that in this situation, the kid would still be like this, but just, I don't know, I figure it's kind of an extreme. I think some people look at this movie and they see a world that is completely unlike our own, and other people look at it and they see a sort of slightly more extreme version of the world as it is. It's just, well, it's, fathers consider if they have to, you know, what is the best thing they can do to protect their kid, and the extreme of that, the very like absolute most extreme version of that is, would I be able to kill my kid if the only thing that lay ahead in his life was torment, you know? And I think that's basically, you know, and some people say, you know, oh, it's unrealistic because this, that, and the other thing, and I don't think that they're factually incorrect. I, I just think that they're trying to apply realism where it doesn't really belong. I really don't think you're supposed to read this as 100%. I'm glad that the movie has a realistic look. I think that would have been very jarring if it didn't, but I don't think you're supposed to think of this as completely. I mean, that is the thing, you know, at the end of the day, it is almost like a parable. You know, what would you do if someone took everything you had? Would you let them go, or would you say that they should give up everything they have? You know, what would you do if you came upon a very old and nearly blind man? You know, would you help him? You know, it forces you to look deep within yourself, and I think that maybe is also part of some of the people. I'm not saying all, but maybe some chunk, maybe it's a tiny minority, but maybe some of the people who don't like the movie did look inside and they didn't like what they saw, and so they lashed out. Again, maybe it's almost no one, maybe it is no one. It's just it's not a movie that leaves you happy or hopeful, or at the very most, there's very little hope, you know, but the yeah, it really forces you to examine humanity, both your own and like mankind, that kind of humanity. And let's see. I watched The Road, What It All Meant, and you know, in general, the What It All Meant videos are good. I don't really have anything to add or comment on. I watched Ryan Hollinger. I have no idea how it's pronounced. Is The Road still the most depressing story ever told? I again don't really have anything to add. Good video. So yeah, like I've basically already made, you know, talked about some. The 2.5 minute trailer makes the movie look a lot more fast paced, more of a horror movie than it. You know, I mean, it is a horror movie, but it's not like. I mean, it is a bleak drama, really, because it's not like constantly scary. I think bleak drama with some horror scenes, some action scenes, thriller scenes, you know. And, you know, the 2 minute trailer does a better job representing the movie, but it does still kind of oversell the, yeah. I don't have anything to add to my old videos. So, the DVD comes with a commentary track. It's the director and no one else. And yeah, so a few things. He talked about that the narration is to get inside the man's head, like the book. And when it came to the kid, they thought about, you know, how do we protect this kid from the content? And they didn't want the gangs to look like Mad Max. That's why the clothes are so different from that. Waterfall was ice cold, but they had safety people around and hot jacuzzi. And Cody didn't see the worst looking of the cannibal victims. And in the book, Vigo nearly shooting the boy is in the field for tension. In the movie, it's inside the cannibal house. I gotta admit, when I reached that part of the book, I'm sorry, I think that's a huge improvement. Again, the book is great, but it really is a huge. It's a much more tense scene because of it being inside the. Yeah, and the director points out some of the stuff in the book is physically impossible stuff to film. And the author did say that he accepted, the first conversation he had with the director, he accepted that it's going to be different, it's an adaptation. He was there to ask for advice, but he didn't second guess the director. And if you're somewhere, if you're listening to this and you yourself have something that's being adapted, or you can talk to someone whose work is being adapted, obviously, you try to find the right person. If you have any influence on who it should be, if you try to find someone that you really feel could do it justice, but then once they do their work, yeah, please don't second guess that's not, offer advice when asked, but otherwise try not to, like the I get it. I totally get it. You're never going to read it, but I have written some, and I would hate to see that done, adapted poorly. And yeah, but just the moment that you know, otherwise just try to, you know, like I don't know, try to convince them to not do an adaptation at all or something, But at the end of the day, keep in mind it's not like they're gonna burn the book once the film is, once they have final cut of the film, they're gonna burn all the copies of the books. The only way anybody's ever gonna be able to take in the story is through the film adaptation. No, if like there are probably people who watched it. Actually, yeah, I'm pretty sure I saw at least some reviewers say, they love the movie, so they're gonna read the book, and that's, excuse me, now. And yeah, the director talks about that the memory of the love and losing his wife is, there's more of that in the film than in the book. And Vigo doesn't really trust, the character doesn't trust strangers. He feels the need to protect the boy, and the boy is kind of the moral compass. Guy Pearce is great, and Cody is great with him. And the director felt it was necessary to alter the ending from the book. He didn't want to suddenly have a different voice come in as voiceover narration, explaining what had happened after, or so yeah. And I agree. I really don't think the book ending would at all have worked. Maybe for some movie, but not for this one. And yeah, so there are some deleted scenes, 6.5 minutes worth on the DVD. Yeah, they hear a dog and the boy wants to find it, so that's obviously, again, that family's dog. And they come across a man on fire. The boy wants to help him, but the man says no. And that's from the book. The boy says goodbye to his father after he's dead, and Guy Pearce wants to leave. And in a car, the man and the boy share an old, really disgusting looking apple. And in the bunker, the man convinces the boy to drink something hot so he won't freeze to death. And then there's a making of, which 11.5 minutes. There's a lot of love fest going on. Talk about how far Viggo Mortensen went to get into character, to get it exactly right, practically living like a hobo. And I listened through the entire audiobook. It's 6 hours, 6 hours and 32 minutes, the audiobook. And let's see. And where the film does show brief flashbacks to a world that isn't ruined right at the start, the book and the movie do basically, both of them open as if we already know these characters. or are supposed to, you know, the as if it's a story, and like if you haven't read it, it's like if you talk to a person, if you talk to a person every so often about this kind of ongoing, like maybe conflicts at your job, you know, and so you might start a conversation by saying, so now, I don't know why okay, sorry, but the first name that popped in my head was Karen, so that's what we're going with. So now Karen says that, let's go with this. This is her stapler, and if someone takes a red stapler, so yeah, can you believe that? You know, rather than start by saying, so I work at this and this place, and there's a person there named Karen. You know, a lot of books will open with, you know, in the year this and this, there was a person like this and this, and the, you know, not literally written exactly like that, but giving that information. And you know, but the, yeah, like when you start reading the book, like you might have to like look and check, no, it's it's, nobody ripped out the first pages, or something. This is the start of the book, this is how the book starts. You know, it starts completely as if, like, you know, yeah, it starts as if we know the characters are supposed to, and certainly as if we already know the world that they're living in. It's almost as though the book is like the diary of the man, only the first bunch of pages are missing, and we're reading his diary, the parts that are left. And literally the first thing, the man trying to protect the boy when the boy sleeps. And I forget exactly how close it is to the movie, but you know, I think it's fairly close. Keeping in mind, the last time I listened to any of the audiobook was weeks ago. And the book also very early has the line, if that boy is not the word of God, then God never spoke. And the shopping cart full of their stuff, which in the film, you know, is only there fairly, you know, briefly early on, and in the director's commentary track, he says that's just not a very practical, you know, we couldn't do that in the movie. So he has them lose it fairly early on. In the book, the if if you watched the movie and felt like the kid was whiny and annoying in the movie, you're gonna hate him in the book, because he's way more of like a child. In that, in the book, he wants to have a story read to him for bedtime. The father is very happy to do it. He talks about how certain things have basically not changed at all since the apocalyptic event, although some stuff has been knocked over by the wind or the like. And early on, the boy asks, "Are we going to die?" And the man reassures him, "Not soon." And he says, "If you died, I would want to die." He tells the boy, and that is that's also in the movie. And fairly early in the book is also this: if they got wet now, there would be no fire to dry them. If they got wet now, they would probably die. They used the cart as a bobsled, and the father notes it's the first time in as long as he can remember that he's seen the boy laugh. Yeah, and they come across the Burning Man, and the father says, you know, he says, no, we can't, there's nothing we can do for him. And there's the bit that's also in the movie where the boy says he wishes he was dead, and the man tells him he shouldn't say things like that even if he doesn't feel it. And a flashback when the mother expresses pessimism about all three of them. Excuse me. There's an encounter with a gang. They flee. From what I recall, the gang, them encountering Garrett Dillahunt and the gang, it plays out very similar, but in the book it happens a bit later. I think it was very smart to place it. It's in the movie. It's very early on, because it really like that. Uh, it should be. Excuse me. It does a really good job setting up the stakes, and it's not like you couldn't have the boy be shot in the leg really early. That like I already explained, it would be absolutely unbearable to watch him die for an hour and a half. And yeah, just under 2 hours through is the first time that the son sees the other boy. Less than a third of the way through. And let's see. I don't know, I guess, is that maybe around, is it like as far as, crap, I forgot to note when it happens in the movie. I think it might be about the same. And about 2 hours into listening through it, I noted that the boy answers a lot of the father's questions with "I don't know" and says "okay" a lot. And them finding the basement full of people is also very similar. And he tries to convince the boy that he may need to shoot himself in the mouth, but the boy doesn't want to. So the man considers if he may have to kill the boy by crushing his skull with a rock, since he now only has one bullet, and he can't crush his own skull. And the father notes that the boy looks like someone out of an extermination camp due to malnutrition. The boy doesn't understand why they left the cannibals, but he accepts the answer that they couldn't have saved the victims. If they had stayed, they would have been eaten too. And the boy needs the father to reassure him that they would never eat people. And they again say, "We carry the fire, we are good people." Or we are carrying the fire. Exactly halfway through the book, they find the bunker with food. And the boy says grace before they start eating, but he says it to the humans rather than God, figuring they must be in heaven, feeling bad about eating someone else's food. Part of the man wishes that they hadn't found the bunker of food, since the man was resigned to their fate, and now the boy might be devastated when they can't have food. The boy is very inquisitive, displays certain levels, a certain level of logical thinking. In the movie, the boy asks if a bird could fly to Mars. If I recall, that's in the book, but if I recall, it's a bit longer. In addition to the bird, he asks if they could fly to Mars, and he asks, would there be food when we got to Mars, and all this. Yeah, if you watch the movie and you find the kid annoying, you would hate him in the book. You should be very, very relieved that a lot of that stuff is not in the movie. And let's see. The man asks the boy where the whistle is and gets the response he threw it away. I get the sense that he actually gave it to the other kid, and not long after, the boy asks the man, "What's our long-term goal?" Which I think he heard from the kid or someone else, but he claims that his father was who told him. And they encounter the old man, try to convince him they're not thieves. And the old man asks what he has to do in return for the food. They say nothing. They say he has to. They don't. He doesn't have to do anything. There we go. Got there eventually. And the boy found a train in the woods. And they go inside of the locomotive and they play inside the train for a while. And then, without talking about it, both admit to themselves that no train will ever drive again. This train will rust. And then they leave quietly. The man is coughing worse and worse. Son feels a lot more like a child in the book than the movie. This is around 4 hours, 4 hours and 30 minutes in. He's much more precocious, for example, realizing that his father can no longer tell the difference between good men and evil men. And yeah, sorry, yeah, I think that does happen. Oh, crap, it's way too hot. We had such a nice period where it wasn't crazy hot, but now, well, it's not crazy hot, but it is hot. Excuse me, it's been 6 hours, and I'm still in pain, so I'm taking some pain medication. Excuse me. And I'm just going to write down what time it is, so that is 6 hours. I could take more, because I'm pretty sure I'm still going to be in pain. There. That sounded slightly more bitter than I meant it to. It's a headache, mostly. Let's see. Right, the thing is, at that point, I noted that if the boy would say, tell the father, you can't tell the difference between good men and evil men, I felt like that wouldn't really be consistent with his characterization up to this point in the book. Let's see. Excuse me. Father wants to drive the boy in the shopping cart. The boy doesn't want to. That's around 4 hours, 30 minutes to 5 hours, and 5 hours to 5.5 hours. And let's see, they forgot the gun, go back for it, but it was still where they left it, and the boy's sad until they find it. And then 5.5 hours to 6 hours, talk about whether or not the people are dead. And eventually the dad realizes the reason the boy keeps saying they must be dead is because otherwise they're taking these people's stuff. We get sick, vomiting, sleeping all day. I feel like the book spends more, goes more into that than the movie does. And yeah, about 5 hours and 50 minutes into the 6-hour, 32 book, they encounter the thief and plays out the same as the movie. And for the last, and these notes are for the last half hour, plays out about the same when you mistake someone defending themselves, someone trying to kill him, with the flare. And afterwards, his son points out, in stories he tells the son they're helping people, but in real life they never are. And the man's leg wound hurts. really heartbreaking when the man dies. The son slowly comes to accept that. And then there's a time skip, and the woman talks. The woman he meets at the end talks to the boy about God, and things are better in the future. Excuse me. And then we have Vern the Outlaw's review of the movie. So I'm going to read aloud stuff I find especially great or I want to comment on or something. Yeah, just real quick, this is kind of funny. In case you don't watch Oprah, the story is about a man and his son after civilization has been destroyed by some unnamed disaster. Just the, because if you watch Oprah, obviously you already know. Yeah. Let's see. And I thought this was a good, just, they're cold, hungry, and worn out, and trying to push their little cart of belongings across the United States to the coast. They don't even really know what they expect when they get there. They just don't know what else to do. Let's see. Excuse me. Nothing in the movie looks stylized. There's devastated scenery, but nothing show-offy. A lot of it is found in location. A lot of it is found locations in places where famous disasters happen, like New Orleans or Mount St. Helens, or just places CGI'd to look more gray and bleak and dead. Nobody wears hockey masks or shoulder pads. These survivors wear heavy winter coats. Let's see. Yeah. So, but I mean, things are so bad that it's an everyday concern to save enough bullets to kill yourself if you get cornered. The father teaches the son where to aim when putting a gun in his own mouth. He comes close to killing his own kid more than once. You think things are bad because your car got stolen, right? How's about living in a world where most people you run into want to rape and eat you? I personally think it's a bit more up to interpretation whether that really is what they want, other than obviously the cannibal house. No ambiguity there. Let's see. And even a kid who grew up in that world, never seen a sunny day, an ocean, a bird, wants to go against what his father teaches him and gives some of his food to starving strangers, even one who robbed them. That means that helping people is human nature too, not just trying to survive. Otherwise, why'd this kid know to do it? There is hope. And I noticed the kid is wearing his mother's hat and a women's sweater that might have been hers too. I believe he's right about that. Yes, it's hers. I think the one the kid is wearing is the one we see her wearing in some scenes. I could be wrong. This reminds you that he's all the father has left of his wife, but also that he has the potential to be like his mother and not want to survive anymore. That doesn't happen though. He wants to survive, he wants to carry the fire. I think the most, sorry, this is not Vern, this is a poster on his, yeah, a comment posted under his review. I think the most significant accomplishment of The Road is how it demonstrates the effect the apocalyptic event has had on the human ability to express itself, to communicate, and to relate to others and to objects. The world that once existed has been really effectively supplanted by the new, harsh world, and the language used by the characters reflect that change. When presented with relics from the pre-apocalyptic world, Vigo's character seems to struggle to relate to the objects, and the few memories that are evoked are fragments. It's as if the hard wiring in his brain has been altered. It means something else to to be human in the new context. In movies, PASD, post-apocalyptic stress disorder, is usually pretty superficial. In The Road, it plumbs some interesting depths. If Heston laments, "You blew it all up" in Planet of the Apes, The Road asks its characters to struggle to even comprehend what the it that was blown up was. That's really well put. The film also communicates the ecological aspect of the catastrophe really well using small events like trees falling down. It's a very convincing dying world. I've seen this criticism of the book a few times, so I'll read aloud what they put here. Cormac McCarthy seemed intent, for such a brutal world, he seemed intent on a lot of flowery description. But yeah, that is, I didn't really notice that as much as I thought. I heard that, I read that on IMDb's, back when they had message boards. I think back when this originally came out, I read that criticism of the book, and several said that the movie does it better because it's not flowery, and yeah, excuse me, and yeah, and yeah, let's see, carrying the fire. The fire, any fire, metaphorical or otherwise, spreads. The dad keeps talking about it to his son, but doesn't really understand it. He wants to contain it and protect it. The son intuitively knows that it must be spread. Yeah, one of them says this about the soundtrack. It's a very understated soundtrack, piano and violin, long stretches with no music at all. Nowhere near as good as Cave and Ellis's other stuff, but perfectly fine for the film. The compositions are conventional, no dissonance, no cello that I was able to hear. I saw some professional critics really hated the score. I don't think I noticed it that much, which basically means it's doing its job. You know, if you notice score, that tends to be a sign that, like this time, I noticed the music when the thief was walking up. Other than that, I don't think I noticed the score much at all. Like there were a couple of times where it highlights the danger, like the cannibal scenes with cannibals and such. And let's see. The language in the road is spare compared to. I don't know what this means. I'm not gonna, just in case it's, But yeah, it's fair. I thought the film did a really good job adapting a book that's difficult to adapt. Whenever the prose gets so thick as to be impossible to preserve in filmic adaptation, I think the most effective approach is to capture it laterally with cinematography. This movie did that. I agree it's not quite as great as the book is in its medium, but overall I think it's a very strong and compromising film. Wish I could say more, but yeah. The I really I thought the movie did an incredible job of it. It really would be impossible to adapt the book directly because it is the words, the prose, yeah. And let's see. Okay, that brings us to the final section. Critics sites IMDb and Wikipedia. Did I say IMDb? IMDb. So I am gonna go ahead and okay, I'm gonna yeah, I'm gonna just skim the specific ones that I noted to come on. Right. As usual, if you're all interested, read the reviews and such yourself. Yeah. Let's see. Excuse me. One of the most chillingly effective visions of the world's end ever put on screen, and a heart-rending study of parenthood to boot. Sorry, these are Rotten Tomatoes, excuse me, critic reviews. Hillcoat's movie is a resounding triumph. Stunning landscape photography sets the melancholy mood, and Nick Cave's wrenching score reinforces it, but it is the performances that ultimately hold the film together. Affirmative and life-enhancing. Yeah, and a lot of critics say that it's not as good as the book, excuse me. Let's see. Starting to consider. No, I'm going to leave them oscillating. I'm not going to direct a fan directly at my face. I don't think I'm going to be recording this video for that much longer. Okay, so instead of popcorn and soda, the concession stands ought to serve broken twigs and muddy water with this one. I mean, they do drink, some cola at one point. Excuse me. And yeah, it is cola in the book as well. That's why it's not product placement, and in fact, they weren't sure they would be able to get the company to agree to be used. Okay, I noted 259 things that I wanted to comment on, and I'm skimming through. This is number 52, so okay. Just a few days ago, it wasn't hot. The road prompts us to treat each other with kindness and to savor small graces. Can we carry the light and heat of grace when survival demands that we carry a loaded gun? That is the question, and that's very nicely put, and I agree. That is a huge, yeah. The visions of the Pulitzer Prize winning book I read were precisely what I saw on screen. Thank you. I'm glad at least one person said that. Almost everyone I see compare, especially critics that I see compared the two, talk about how it's not quite as good as the book. I just feel like if it were a huge, if just, but it is incredible. It's just frustrating when so many people say the exact same thing when it's not. I mean, if you want the book is still there. Just there are countless people who are never going to read the book, who wouldn't get very far into it without losing interest, who can watch the movie, and who would appreciate the themes. Is the film too grim or not grim enough? In a perverse way, I fear it's both. I don't know exactly what Christopher Orr means by that, but I do think that the film has, you know, it might run into some issues there. And some people did say that they thought, some people said it was way too depressing, others said it should have been bleaker. Some of them say that, it's incredible, but they don't ever want to watch it again or don't want to recommend it to anybody. I understand that, but I can't, like, I can't imagine only ever watching this once. I yeah, and the, like, you just, don't compare it to like someone who is, who would be way too destroyed by it. But like, I know people that I would recommend this to, and I know people who would recommend this to me if I hadn't watched it. I saw the trailer, and based on that, I watched it. And like I said, I wasn't, I was surprised but not disappointed that it was not the kind of action horror movie that the 2.5 minute trailer sells it as. Yeah, and some people say that it should have had zombies. I don't even look. I love a lot of zombie movies, but this movie should not have had zombies in it. And the fact that it has some similarities, maybe many similarities, to zombie movies, but doesn't have zombies in it is not a bad thing. But yeah, if you're like, yeah, tell you what, if you've watched this movie and you're looking for something else bleak, if you're not, just ignore what I'm about to say. But if you are, the George A. Romero's uh, trilogy of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead from 1968, Dawn of the Dead from 1978. I feel like that's right. And The Day of the Dead from 1985. Yeah, I'm pretty sure those are the years. Very bleak, and so yeah, if you want something that's bleak and also, unlike this, has zombies, then those are great. One real quick thing, if you some people today will find the original, the 1968 movie, to be too slow for today. You don't have to have watched that movie to appreciate the other two. It's, you can, all three of them you can watch completely independently of each other. But the, excuse me, I think it would be I think if you at all think you would like, the 1978 Dawn of the Dead, you should watch it. It's a really great movie. And the Day of the Dead, wow, it's bleak and it's really brutal at times. It's, but if it's what you want to watch, then it gets that exactly right. But yeah, a lot of people will never ever want to watch that movie, and that's perfectly all right. I would not want anyone to be forced to watch. I struggle to think of any movie that I would say anyone should be forced to watch. Hillcoat gives the post-apocalypse an unnerving solidity by focusing on the drab details of survival and linking them to the more hellish aspects of modern American life. I think that's very well put. The road can be a tough slog, but the journey is a rewarding one. Very well put. Excuse me. I have to admit, I really wish I could have looked up this full review, but I can't find it. Frederick and Marianne Bersat from Spirituality and Practice. They give it a 1 out of 5, and they say a post-apocalyptic tale that is nothing more than an ad for patriarchy and dualistic thinking. I don't know that I agree. I think I can kind of see what they mean. I really wish I could read a more, like a, what's it called? The sort of, read what they wrote to more explain that or give examples or something. I mean, I guess maybe they're saying that the movie says that only men can protect children because the woman, the boy's mother leaves, and the I don't know. If anybody has like copied the original review, you know, and can post it somewhere. I guess I'm not gonna open up the door of asking perfect strangers to send me some file over. No, but if it's posted somewhere, please send me the link. Yeah, for those concerned about such, I'm not gonna click the link without having, without looking into. Yeah. Let's see. The picture glimpses what it might really be like if the Earth went to hell. As shattering as the sights are, turning away is out of the question. Okay, I'm sorry. This person didn't like the movie, but this is kind of amusing. Viggo Mortensen plays the man in the anonymous Every Man Says Not sense not in the stick it to the blaxploitation sense. Charlize Theron is wife, and Cody Smith McPhee is the boy. And I'm the audience, and I'm annoyed. Wow, I sure found a lot of these reviews worth bringing up when I first read them. Which, actually, at that time, it was hot, too, so, anyway. So, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and skim all of it, because I know there are a few things near the end of this that I very badly want to bring up. So I'm definitely getting to those. Okay. And that brings us to the Rotten Tomatoes user reviews. I'm pretty much just gonna skip through. This person says, I think 5 stars is max, the highest vote you can give on Rotten Tomatoes. This person says, anything less than 5 stars is a disgrace. Let's see. Okay, so I'm not going to read all of this, but this person says, the father sacrifices everything to protect his child. Strong, loving father images are rare in films. I think that might actually be true, and it's so messed up because it's not like that thing that doesn't happen in real life. There's just this, like, some people feel that it's wrong that, like, the for men to display affection towards anyone other than the woman they're with. You know, it's just, yeah. I'm sorry, this is kind of, again, this person clearly did not like the movie, so I disagree with them on that, but this is kind of funny. A boy and a father walk toward the ocean for absolutely no reason and meet several characters completely irrelevant to the plot. The end. And we've reached the Metacritic critic reviews. Okay, think cold thoughts. Nice, cold, Ice Cube's Metacritic user reviews. Okay, those aren't cold. I'm just saying where we're at in the... I might not read any aloud, but if I start to, I don't want you to be confused. I know, I'm probably the only person who cares about that. I can live with that. It's not gonna keep me awake at night or break me down for that to be the case. Okay, we're almost there. 206. Yeah, I think... Okay, so the someone... I read someone's point out that in real life, children mature very quickly under hard circumstances. And I think that is I think the idea was Cormac McCarthy wanted to imagine preserving the innocence. He didn't want the kid to have to grow up quickly. And I'm not saying you're wrong for pointing out, that is factually accurate. That it just, I don't know, I feel like we're too, maybe probably especially with live action movies, is the moment that people see moving images, they're like, oh, so it must imitate real life. I don't think it's supposed to be an accurate, like if excuse me, like if you're imagine like if you're imagine if you are, I'm trying to think before I say each word to see where I'm going with this. I don't think it's supposed to be realistic as this is what a child would be like under these circumstances. It's supposed to be like again, like to some people see it, see this and they think, oh, how it's an annoying whiny brat. But other people see it and they're like, oh, he's still an innocent child. You know, I don't know. I don't have children, and I definitely never will. But I don't know. I've seen there have been times where I've seen children be very innocent, and I appreciated that there is something there. There's yeah, and that's the thing. Like either maybe you look at the movie and you're like, oh, he's still innocent despite this, or maybe you look at the movies, he's still innocent despite this. It's and I'm not saying not everybody, you can't like choose what to to live the role. Sorry, this is IMDb trivia. To live the role, Viggo Mortensen would sleep in his clothes and deliberately starve himself. At one point, he was thrown out of a shop in Pittsburgh because they thought he was a homeless man. So yeah, that makes it sound like he was starving himself while they were making the movie. So that's wow. Let's see. During a preview Q&A screening in London, John Hillcoat, the director, revealed that Cody Smith McPhee won the role of the boy partly due to an audition tape sent in by Cody's father that showed them reenacting the scene where the father shows the boy how to kill himself by placing a pistol in his mouth. Australians, man, they're hardcore. Yeah, for those who don't know, and I didn't know before researching this, Cody Smith McPhee is apparently Australian. I've never been able to hear that in his voice when, I don't hear it in this, I don't hear it when he plays Nightcrawler. Director John Hillcoat filmed the soft drink vending machine scene with man and boy several times, each with a different brand beverage, out of concern that Coca-Cola executives would not want their product to appear in this movie. A telephone call from Viggo Mortensen to the president of Coca-Cola secured permission for a can of Coca-Cola to appear consistent with the source novel. Cody Smith McPhee won his part over hundreds of boys due to a strong audition and his resemblance to Charlize Theron, who had been cast as woman. I gotta admit, they look so much alike. It is like, if I didn't know that they weren't related, I would 100%. Like, if you had just told me, oh, right, in real life, they really are mother and son, I would have believed that. John Hillcoat did shoot the controversial scene from the book involving a baby on a spit being roasted over a campfire, but ultimately decided to cut it because he felt it was simply too much. I think that might have gotten it an NC-17. You know, Boy's messy spiral crayon drawings are reminiscent of a famous David. I'm gonna go with Chim. Seymour, photographed from 1948, in a Tereska of psychologically disturbed child Holocaust survivor, drew similar circular messy lines to represent home. Yeah, that Holocaust survivor. Yeah, that is a old man's line about having a son was not in the script and was ad-libbed by Robert Duvall after they were all tired from many takes. Cody Smith-McPhee's father read the whole book to Smith-McPhee right before he auditioned for the role of Boy. Viggo Mortensen claimed that he never kept track of how much weight he lost for the role, as it was a gradual weight loss as a result of less eating, but he estimates it was approximately 30 pounds. Holy crap. I mean, it's one thing to lose that amount of weight, period, but to lose it because of not eating. Like, if you lose that amount of weight, like, if you're out there and you're listening to me right now and you're planning to lose 30 pounds, please don't make it by starving yourself. Please eat right, exercise, don't starve yourself. In general, don't if you don't feel like you need to lose weight and there isn't a doctor telling you you need to lose weight out of health concerns, if you're comfortable with the way you look, screw other people's opinion. Don't try to lose weight if you don't feel like you want to lose weight, but definitely don't lose weight by starving yourself. That's like if you think you might have an eating disorder or you seriously consider starving yourself, please talk to someone. Please try to, you know, don't do that to yourself. Whenever it was a sunny day, the visual effects technicians had to use CGI to make it look cloudy because John Hillcoat wanted to maintain a desolate atmosphere. I really appreciate that. I don't think I can't tell. I honestly I could watch this movie 100 times. I still probably wouldn't be able to pick out which ones where it's CG and where. Excuse me. One of the reasons Joe Penhall landed the job writing the screenplay was because he felt there was no need to change the novel's dialogue. Yeah, for the birthing scene, John Hillcoat originally planned to record the screaming of women actually giving birth and edited over the scene. Charlize Theron objected to this and filmed the scene herself. The screaming you hear in the film is actually her. That is, wow. I mean, honestly, at this point, I feel like there's nothing you could tell me about Charlize Theron that would, like, if this is the top level of holy crap, Charlize Theron will do anything and everything she can to make her performance as incredible in a movie, then my level is like it's here, possibly even here. You can't really do anything to raise it higher, but that still is wow. Director John Hillcoat first read the novel and fell in love with it before it was published. The cause of the global catastrophe is never specified, while the book and the film strongly hint at two explanations: a worldwide nuclear war or a massive strike on the Earth by spaceborne objects. The filmmakers did not want to make the film about the characters' blame or lack thereof for the situation and kept the focus on how man and boy would try to survive in the post-apocalyptic settings. And again, some people gave this movie a negative review because they weren't told. And I really feel like if you do that, that's fine. That's up to you. I don't think that, I don't know. I just feel like when a movie is this good, I don't think you should take marks off it from something so that is so specifically personal preference. I really feel like that's like, if you want to say it, if you want to say in the review, I personally wish they had told us what it was. But like, I get like taking huge marks off a movie that is bad for bad things, but taking marks off an incredible movie because it didn't do a thing, like, it doesn't break the movie. Like, hypothetically, let's say that they did tell you what it was, and it was like alien, ghost, zombie, magic, virus, disease. Then every time you watch it, it's like, oh right, it's the that thing. That would ruin it. But us not knowing what it is doesn't ruin it. Or like, yeah, or let's say that you watch, I guess I'm not gonna give away, yeah, I'm not gonna say exactly what it is, but let's say you watch the entire movie 28 days later, and you're never told how it transmits or what the origin is. I think that movie would be hurt tremendously by that. But this, we don't need to know. Excuse me. John Hillcoat originally wanted to shoot this film in chronological order, but the logistics of filming in numerous locations in several different states made this an impossibility. I'm really glad they dropped it, because I'm incredibly happy with how it came out. The way they used locations to, yeah. Despite the prominent billing they received, Robert Duvall, old man, and Guy Pearce, veteran, get very little screen time. Let's see. The screenplay for this film was featured in the 2007 Blacklist, a list of the most liked unmade scripts of the year. Half the crew members for the shoot in New Orleans, Louisiana, were survivors of Hurricane Katrina. There we go. I know, some people are going to tell me, just talk slower. Doesn't work. I've tried it. If I talk slower, I still mess up what I say, and I just get annoyed because I could have been saying it fast. If I'm going to mess it up anyway, I want to be talking fast at least. I know, stubborn like a mule. In an interview, Viggo Mortensen explained that his interpretation of the voiceover was the thoughts in his character's head. So even if I'm so weak that I can barely talk, or if I'm upset, it isn't a real voice. So I thought, well, it's not a real voice, so how does it sound? It's just matter of fact. It's really just what McCarthy wrote. I think he did incredible. I love the way that he did the voiceover. I've heard there are obviously movies where the voiceover is much more like it feels like it is exactly the way that they feel at the time, and it works for those movies. I don't think it would have worked as well for this. Excuse me. 80% of this movie was shot in exterior locations. This, I believe, is the goofs section, and this, you know what? Come to think of it, no, I don't think I'm just gonna say that there are some points made in the goofs section that are based on realism, and I don't think that they're, yeah. Here we go. This is from Wikipedia, development history. In an interview with, yeah, sorry, I think this is the book's Wikipedia, not the movie's Wikipedia. No, I'm not going to check. It's one or the other. In an interview with Oprah Winfrey, McCarthy said that the inspiration for the book came during a 2003 visit to El Paso, Texas, with his young son. Imagining what the city might look like 50 to 100 years into the future, he pictured fires on the hill and thought about his son. He took some initial notes, but did not return to the idea, excuse me, until a few years later, while in Ireland. Then the novel came to him quickly, and he dedicated it to his son, John Francis McCarthy. During Oprah Winfrey's interview, McCarthy insisted his son, John Francis, was a co-author to the novel, revealing that some of the conversations between the father and son in the novel were based upon actual conversations between McCarthy and his son. The novel was also dedicated to his son. In a way, it is a love story for his son, but McCarthy felt embarrassed to admit it on television. And that's, I think that's really important to, that's an important counterbalance to, like, if you if you've watched to this point and you haven't read the book or watched the movie, if you read people saying this is, it's the kid is annoying, just if you don't have kids and you can't really relate to the, I like I said, I don't have kids, but I can think of people I know who have behaved like the kid, and I don't know, maybe it's because I know them in other situations that I'm more forgiving, but yeah, I hope Cormac McCarthy himself isn't reading the reviews and finding that like other people think that his son is obnoxious, but it just, it's not that it's some idiot who didn't know what he was doing writing a bad child character. It's a father writing his son the way his son is, and in his eyes, that's not a bad thing. He loves his son. So when he wrote it like this, like I don't think it occurred to him that other people might find the kid annoying. Or maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he wrote it and he's like, if, it's going to appeal to the, it's going to work for some people, it's not going to work for everybody. I do hope that if it would bother him that he doesn't know, because that really that would be too bad. Those were all the notes that, and my back is excited about the prospect of me ending this video. I'm gonna see if there's anything, any final thoughts. I think the only thing I want to just briefly say, I really don't read this as saying that all fathers, that all fathers, all sons, or all mothers are like the father, son, and what father, son, and mother in this, or wife, whatever, I don't think it's supposed to be representative of everyone. And maybe I'm wrong. I don't know much about Cormac McCarthy. I don't think that he considers the woman weak and cowardly, as I saw some say that she was. I figure he probably. I mean, at the end of the day, he's probably either. I mean, if he's the man, does that mean that he himself would be paranoid in that situation? I don't know, but I really don't get the sense that he's saying that the woman is wrong to. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, there is some chance that it's that thing of like, you know, he was more interested in like he wanted to tell a story of like the he wanted to tell the story of a father and a son. He didn't want there to be other characters very much involved with that. So he wrote the mother the boy's mother out of the story. I but I really don't get the sense that there's any kind of misogyny or yeah. So I believe that is the very last thing. So I hope you enjoyed watching.